stage. It's time to get you ready for the World Series this year, the Fall Classic between the Chicago Cubs, who are, let's face it, they're supposed to be here, and the Cleveland Indians, who have basically come out of nowhere. Andrew Miller has a lot to do with where the Cleveland Indians are right now. We'll get to him in just a bit. But let's first talk about the irony of these two teams being in the Fall Classic. Here's the ironic twist. We all know Theo Epstein is the architect of the Chicago Cubs and one of the reasons why they're here today. He has Joe Maddon as his manager, former AL East guy, and another former AL East guy manages the Indians, Terry Francona, who used to work with Theo Epstein. There's just so many things, so many cogs going around with this game, this series. It's unbelievable. So if you can't get up for this series, and if you're not rooting for a 7-game stretch with both of these teams, I don't know what's wrong with you if you like the game of baseball. Now let's start with the Indians here and their trek to get to the Fall Classic. They weren't supposed to get through Boston. They weren't supposed to be able to match up with their starting pitching of David Price. And they weren't supposed to match up against Rick Porcello. And they weren't supposed to match up with Clay Buchholz. What did that end up being? A 3-game sweep. And then they move on to the Toronto Blue Jays, and they weren't supposed to match up with their starting pitching. They beat Marco Estrada twice. They beat Marcus Stroman. They beat Jay Happ. I mean, you're talking about 20-game winners, both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays that they had, and the Indians went right through them. Red Sox in 3 games a sweep. The Blue Jays with that lineup, 5 games a sweep. Now, does the Blue Jays lineup kind of mirror the Chicago Cubs lineup? No. In my opinion, the Chicago Cubs lineup, much dangerous, even with the pitcher batting for the Cubbies. But now you have Lester, you have Arrieta, you have Hendricks, you have Lackey. So once again, it looks like the Cleveland Indians are going up Everest to get another flag. Now they're looking for that World Series pennant to take back home to Cleveland for the first time since 1948. I mean, just think about that for a second. 68 years for the Tribe, 108 years for the Cubbies. It's just amazing. But the Indians, talking about rotations, they're going to get Danny Salazar back. We don't know in what capacity yet. We don't know what Terry Francona has up his sleeves. But every part of the way, every step of the way here for Terry Francona, every move he's made has turned into be solid gold. So we don't know what Salazar is going to be used. Mickey Callaway, the pitching coach, said he could throw 65 to 70 pitches. He has ditched his curveball because that is what was giving him the forearm issues. Hasn't pitched since early September. So now he's back on the roster, could give them a start. We don't know what he's going to be capable of, but in a simulated game, he hit 97 on the gun. So the Indians have another one in the chamber in the starting rotation. We might see Ryan Merritt again. Who knows? They're set up for the first 3 games. It's Corey Kluber, it's Trevor Bauer, and Josh Tomlin. Bauer may be pushed back to game 3 because of that whole drone incident. And we all remember how can we forget the blood dripping all over the mound in Toronto with Bauer. Everybody gave him a hard time, but you got to give the guy credit for going out there and trying to perform. And you know what? Merritt came in, he did his job, and the Indians are here in the World Series. So if the Pinky's good, the Indians should be good, and he'll go in game 2. Now the lineups. Despite being shut out in 2 games against the Dodgers, the Cubs outscored LA 31-15 in that 6-game series, what ended up being a 6-game series. They absolutely came to life after that 2-game hibernation. Anthony Rizzo won for his first 23 in the playoffs. No RBI, no home runs. The back 6 games of the playoffs, or the last 4 I should say, 8 for 17 with 2 homers and 5 ribbies. What did Walter Matthau say in the Bad News Bears movie? Anthony Rizzo's getting hot. What does that mean? Bad news for Indians pitching. I mean, this is a lineup. You have him and Bryant back-to-back. Whenever you face those 2 guys back-to-back, you're going to have some issues. However, Andrew Miller might be the guy to get through that part of the lineup in a big situation. Now, are the Cubbies going to win a blowout game here and there in this series? Probably. That lineup is that immense, and it's that powerful to do that, just as they did against the Dodgers. Look at the final scores over the NLCS, and you'll see that. Now, also what we have going on, Chris Bryant held hitless just twice all postseason. 10 games, he has played 13 for 39. That's .333. with 6 RBI and 6 extra base hits, including a home run. And plus, we're going to get to see 2 of the most exciting middle infielders in the game of baseball in this series. Francisco Lindor, the shortstop for the Indians, and Javier Baez, the second baseman for the Cubs. Not only are they doing it at the plate, and the numbers, Lindor 323 with 2 homers and 4 ribbies, and Baez 342 with 7 home runs, and multiple hit games in 4 out of 10 games, and Lindor had multiple hit games in 4 out of the 8 games the Indians have played. Just tremendous defense up the middle for both of these squads. You know, defense wins championships. That's across every sport, and you want your defense to be strong up the middle. These teams' defenses are strong up the middle. You might have a little bit of a hiccup there with Kipnis and his ankle injury. Terry Francona said he should be good to go, though. All right, moving forward, a little Yankee flavor in this series. Andrew Miller going up against Aroldis Chapman. They won't be going up head-to-head. I highly doubt either one of these guys will be left in to face the other guy batting. They're going to come in to get guys out, and that's also in the National League Park over games 3, 4, and 5 in Chicago 5 if necessary. But the Chapman deal, Rashad Crawford to the Yankees, Billy McKinney, Gleyber Torres, Adam Warren. Warren paid dividends for the Yankees this season. He was familiar with the Yankees. He grew up with them. So him coming back, he really had a good part of the season when he came back to the Yankees. They got a great part of the deal there. It helped the bullpen, gave Joe Girardi some length to pick up the slack for some starters who couldn't give him a lot of innings. So Adam Warren, fine, paying off some dividends. The rest of these guys, we will have to wait and see. But Aroldis Chapman has definitely helped the Cubs get to where they are. And how about Andrew Miller, his deal? J.P. Fireisen, Clint Frazier, Justice Sheffield, and Ben Heller. We saw Heller up with the big club. Fireisen also came up. Clint Frazier stayed with AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. He got better as the season went on for him after the trade. Just remember, he was just sent to Akron, AAA for Cleveland, before that trade was made. So we're going to see. That's a wait and see. But Andrew Miller, I mean, golly. Right now, the Indians are looking like absolute geniuses for trading these prospects because they are in the Fall Classic, and one of the major reasons is the ALCS MVP in Andrew Miller. I mean, you can't say enough about this guy. In 12 postseason games over his career with Baltimore, with the Yankees, and now with the Indians, 12 games. His ERA is a big, fat goose egg. Goose egg! And his last 12 games, left 12 appearances of this season, and into the playoffs this year, 83 batters faced, 41 strikeouts. He is mowing down the opposition, a .95 batting average against in the postseason, in those 12 games. I mean, I know he hasn't been in as many games as Mariano Rivera, but that domination and those numbers are Mariano Rivera-esque. Not comparing him to Mo, you know, along the length of his career. He just hasn't had that kind of experience in the playoffs, but what he's been able to do in the postseason pales in comparison to Aroldis Chapman, who right now, his numbers, he's pitching to a .338 ERA in 8 games this postseason. So Miller's a little, he's getting the job done a heck of a lot more, and it's that nasty slider. I mean, you can't say enough about Miller and what he's able to do with that slider. He is putting the opposition to sleep, and he is getting Cleveland from station to station. This is the last part of it, though. Miller has to come up big, and he has to continue to be perfect against this Cubs lineup, which we all know, which we've seen in the Dodgers series, can be extremely powerful and give you huge numbers in the postseason, in that series, in the NLCS, and along the way, it's going to be a good one. All right, prediction time, everybody. It's my favorite time to make a prediction here, and with sports, you usually go with your head or your heart, and I'm going to give you both of mine. Heart is telling me Indians in 7. Head is telling me Cubs in 6. Now, I know all you Cubs fans out there probably want this to end in 4 or 5 so you could celebrate at home. But to me, the Indians are playing like a hockey team that makes it in as the 8th seed and then has that hot goalie. But the hot goalie for the Indians is the entire 25-man roster. Well, I guess you could single out Andrew Miller, but he doesn't play the whole game. But when he does play, he plays a major role, as we all know. Yankee fans know all too well. Also Aroldis Chapman with his time with the Bombers as well. So I really think it's going to be Cubs in 6, but I would love to see Indians in 7. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that? After, I think it was a 60-plus year drought for Cleveland. I think the last time they won a championship was the 1964 Browns. And then LeBron James and company, they're going to get their rings actually tonight when they play the Knicks. So they ended the championship drought for the city of Cleveland, and it would be nice to see the Indians take the World Series as well. In my eyes, you know, make up for lost time in the city of Cleveland. It would be nice to see that. And it would also be great to see, I can't deny it, 108 years. I know there are some people out there rooting for the Cubs to lose because they just love that lovable losers theme that this team has, and they like to see fans suffer a little bit more. I saw that with the Red Sox as well. But can you imagine if they did win it in 5 in Chicago at Wrigley Field? There's just no reason why, as a sports fan, you shouldn't be glued to your couches watching every pitch to the final out. It's going to be an amazing series. I don't care how long it lasts. It's going to be great. I'm going to watch every game. What do you guys think? We want to know.